So, what I really love about your content is how you laugh at yourself in the situations. Obviously, the content is super relatable, but the part that always gets me is when you start that chuckle. So, if I'm having a bad day or if I just know I need a good laugh, you never let me down. So, I love your serious stuff too, but just your delivery and the way that you start with that like giggle and smile just makes me laugh and break down. And my family knows in the middle of the night when I'm watching you because I wake everyone up with a belly laugh that goes throughout the house. Thanks.
It's the Call Kevin podcast. It's the podcast of your dreams. It's the Call Kevin podcast. On asking things. Podcast Kevin with Call Kevin.
Welcome back to another episode of Call Kevin. It's a call-in show where you go to my website, kevinjamesthornton.com, and press the record button. I guess it's not a call-in show. It's a recorded message show. You record your message, tell me a story, ask a question, whatever it is you want to say for a possible play on a future episode of Call Kevin. I think we're on episode number 11. Is that right? I'll double check before I post, but I think we're now at 11 full hours of Call Kevin. If you're a new listener, you can binge at this point. Before we dive into our calls/messages, I want to tell you that I'll be at the Pittsburgh Improv coming up in a few days. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's April 10th, I think. If you're in Pittsburgh, double check on my website. After that, I'll be in Austin, Texas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you're in Oklahoma City or Tulsa, those two shows are actually matinees. They're at 4 o'clock. That's unusual. So if you're planning on coming in those cities, it's an afternoon kind of vibe. And then I'll also be at the Raleigh Improv. I think that might be the first week of May. Those are the shows coming up. I have like 70 more shows after that in 2025. All of those are listed on my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. Oh, Minneapolis is about to go on sale in a couple days. I think by the time you hear this, they might already be on sale. All of that's on my website, kevinjamesthornton.com. Also, while you're there, you can leave a message. There's a link to watch my comedy special. All my stuff is all right there, kevinjamesthornton.com. So you can go check that out. Why don't we dive into our first message?
I got a fun little story for you. I was part of a charismatic Catholic youth group in middle school and high school. And I was part of the worship band, and we would go every summer to this summer camp. It was called Steubenville, where we would be shamed for our sexuality, and we'd be rolling around on the ground, speaking in tongues, the basics. And there was a member of the worship band named Marty, and I think he was like 32 or something. He was way older than us. And one time he told us a story about, well, he just goes, I met Satan. I met him. And we were like, tell us more. And he said, I was barbecuing at a beach house on the boardwalk. And we were just hanging out, playing worship songs. And this beautiful blonde man walks up wearing white linen. He had long hair and he was wearing ancient sandals. And if you know this beach town in San Diego, that's like kind of how everybody dresses. But the guy takes an interest in what they're doing and says, oh, you got a guitar. Maybe you want to hear some of my songs. And so he takes out this book, this ancient book. And Marty says, you could tell it was bound in human skin. And we were like, yeah, for sure. Like totally you could tell. And he starts singing in this ancient tongue, and the clouds roll in, and this feeling of evil overtakes the beach house on the boardwalk. And Marty gets hip to it and says, you know what? In the name of God, I rebuke you, Satan. And Satan stops playing and goes, sorry, and gives the guitar back. He's apparently very offended. And as he gives the guitar back and stops singing and leaves, the clouds pass, the weather gets good again, and they just keep saying, I rebuke you, Satan. I rebuke you, Satan. He's like, okay, vibe's off. I'm leaving. And we were listening to this as 12-year-olds, and we're like, this is, he's twice our age. This is obviously 100% accurate and true. And that didn't affect me deeply for years at all. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.
People don't spin yarns like they used to. Do you know that phrase? And maybe they still do in maybe certain religious or church circles. I'm not in those anymore. But even outside of that kind of gathering group, I remember people in my family when I was young would sit around the kitchen table and just tell lies or spinning a yarn. Is this still a thing? I think it's a Southern thing in America, a Midwestern, Middle America thing, but maybe it's not so much anymore. But I remember my aunts and uncles when I was a kid, we'd go to my grandmother's house and she had this, the whole house was like wood, dark wood paneled. You know that vibe, that era. And they'd sit around this big round kitchen table, chain smoking cigarettes and just telling stories that looking back, I'm like, that didn't happen. But they told the stories, and it's like I don't know if like in the moment did everyone believe the story. Like for example, I have a memory of my aunt talking about she went to Chicago, which was a big city, a big scary city, and a man fell over and like face first on the sidewalk and started bleeding from his face. And my aunt with like a cigarette, and she had these glasses that were like they faded from like blue to pink. Do you remember that era? Like big blue and pink glasses, blue eyeshadow, cigarette. And she's like, and I started to run over to that man to help him. And my husband said, no, you can't do that. He might be waiting with a knife and he's going to roll over and stab you. So I just let him, I didn't want to, but I just let him, I just had to walk on. I couldn't help him. That's what it's like in the cities. I gave her an accent that she didn't have. There's like a Southern accent, and then there's like a Midwestern, it's kind of Southern. I made that too Southern. But, and I remember as a kid listening to that story, like, yeah, Chicago sounds like a scary place. But today I'm like, that didn't happen. That did not happen. You know what I mean? Anyway, much like your story of the devil, I mean, maybe a man who looked like that did come into the whatever, but, you know. Spinning yarns. Ah, yes. Those are the things I don't miss. Or do I?
Hello, Kevin. My
Hello.
name's Allison. I'm from Albany, New York. And I really enjoy your work. And I think you're hilarious. But I had watched a recording of your live that you did yesterday. And I just love the analog message that you had there. And it reminded me of a study that I had read where it said it had people like at a beach or an experience, and they had one group not have their phone, not take any pictures, and just kind of experience where they were. And they had another group, take out their phones, take video, take pictures, and then they questioned them about what they remembered. And the group that didn't have a phone or wasn't allowed to do anything like that remembered a great deal more than the group that had been filming. So it just kind of reminded me what you were talking about the other night about being more analog, kind of being present. It reminded me of that study and how, it feels like we're kind of being robbed of our memories in a way too, the ability to create memories. But anyway, just wanted to share that and really appreciate you focusing on community and all that great stuff. Wish you well, and thanks for doing what you do. Thanks. Bye.
If you couldn't catch the word, they were saying the word analog, which is last night on Substack Live, I said the phrase, I want to live an analog life. And maybe that's a phrase you've not heard before because I think I made it up. But if you are not of a certain age to really remember when a lot of things were analog, it's basically not digital before like the digital revolution. So, like vinyl records versus streaming music on Spotify, taking pictures with film as opposed to like a digital camera. Analog is like pre-digital. But I was using it in a way referring to social media, and you've heard me talk about this lately. Maybe I'm starting to beat a dead horse. Is that the phrase? Yeah. What an awful phrase. How if you remember what it was like before having a screen with limitless information in your pocket, one thing that is different now is that I think it robs you of the ability to be in the moment. When you're constantly connected to like every person and every idea in the world instantly, it makes it a lot harder to be in the moment. You know, technology is a wonderful thing. It does wonderful things in medicine and all that stuff. This is turning into a TED Talk, but you know, I'm really big on exploring this idea of, can we balance this a little bit? Because I don't know if this is better. And I know as we get older, we're like, it was better back in my day. But this is one of those things where I really think it was. Do you remember before you had constant immediate connection, you had to be in the moment a little more. And there's a nuance to it of just like, you just had to be a boring, regular person sitting in your bedroom. Or you had to go, if you went to a museum, there was no like recording device to like, you had to look with your own eyeballs. And if you're a young person who does not know what that's like, it's a nuanced, special human thing to truly be in the moment. You're not also thinking about recording some content for your social media, so hopefully it blows up and you become a famous content creator or something. I kind of think some of that stuff's going to go away. Even young people I've seen posting about they wish things were a little more like when they were kids. I think it's coming back. In the same way that like vinyl records have made a comeback, because it's like, you know what? I miss music being a little more special. I miss having to be a little more in the moment with this album rather than just like, you know, swiping, scrolling, everything streaming, throwaway. You know what I mean? Am I preaching to the choir here? Probably. What's this?
It was the
Oh,
90s.
it certainly was.
Shamala-hamala.
Same to you.
You are listening to the Call Kevin podcast.
Hey, Kevin, this is Ernest. So I live in upstate New York, but in the 90s, I went to a church called Higher Dimensions Evangelical Center, and it was run by Carlton Pearson. And I was like 23, 24 years old, and the church was actually very fun and entertaining, but they were, you know, not very gay friendly. And so I put myself into conversion therapy. And, you know, I tried to pray the gay away, and I went to emotional support groups and individual counseling, and I was straight. Girls were just beautiful to me, and I was trying to, but the thing was, it lasted about 2 months or 3 months. And then I started going home, and I had a friend with benefits, and we would benefit through the week. And then when that wore off after about 6 months, I was living on my own, still going to church, still testifying. I got up in front of the church, testified. People are clapping, the organ's going. I'm like, but wait, there's more. Jesus took it away like that. And I'm snapping in front of the church, you know, like I'm really straight now. So this goes on for a couple of years. And then it got to the point where I got my own place. I got my own phone in my duplex. And so I'd go to church on Sunday, and I'd come home during the week and look in the back of a newspaper called the Gaily Oklahoman, which was a joke on the Daily Oklahoman, which was the newspaper there. And I would find one of those 1-900 chat line numbers and chat with other guys. And my name was Chad on the chats. I didn't want to use my real name. And I would chat with guys and do benefity things over the phone during the week. But on Sunday, I was still straight. That's the 90s. And I have to say the 900 numbers won, because I just turned 57 recently and finished up chemo treatment and then turned 57 in the same month in March, and still gay as heck. And so, yeah, I guess the 900 numbers won.
I also have said that I put myself through conversion therapy in the 90s. Oh, wait, hold on. We need more of this.
It was the 90s.
That was loud. I don't know if that phrase was actually in use in like the mid 90s. I know that the group Exodus Ministries, which became kind of famous as like the first Pray Away the Gay ministry, and the people who started that organization went on to say they regretted it and they're not ex-gay anymore because that's not possible. But I think maybe like some sort of organized conversion therapy was a thing that maybe started to develop in the early 2000s. I might be wrong, because I remember I was looking for resources all the time in like 1994, 93, 94, like right before I went away to college. Because when I went to college, I'd kind of given up. But for a couple years, like Exodus Ministries put out a couple of books that you could get at the Christian bookstore, or at least order them. I went to this music festival called Cornerstone every summer, and Exodus had a presence there for a couple years. And I like tried to go to their meetings and talk to someone. I remember sitting down with this woman from Exodus, trying to tell, like, hoping she had some kind of answer for me about why I was like this. And she did not have an answer. I don't even really remember what she said. But yeah, I sort of did it to myself. And then the second part of that is I call in like sex phone things is such a 90s thing.
It was the 90s.
And did you guys get into that? Here's another technology thing, because, you know, we've advanced now. You don't call and make sexy sounds to a stranger, but you did in the 90s.
It was the 90s.
All right, I'll stop with that.
I was just calling. I'm sitting here watching a baking show and thinking about food. And I think the one thing, I used to be Mormon anyways, and I miss being brought food when like things were happening. Like if you were sick, or I don't know if people know about Mormons, but you get as like assigned people to like watch you or watch over you. They're called visiting teachers. Anyways, I think I just miss the food because I'm going to start going through cancer treatment, and my family lives kind of far away, and I'm not in the Mormon church anymore. So like all my friends from that time are gone. And I was just thinking how it would be really nice if there was like a way to find more community support for people who are going through things that are like formally religious, that don't really know how to make groups and friends after that experience. I don't know if you felt that way, but I think I was in it for so long. And when I left in my 30s, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I know how to make normal friends besides like work friends. But anyways, I'm working on that, and I do have some support here. It's just, I was just thinking about that and how I miss being brought food when I'm sick. And I think sometimes that sense of community, even though like I don't believe it at all, I miss a little bit that sense of community. But anyways, I appreciate you setting up community, and it is just really nice because on Sundays, you send out your super secret message. And if I'm just really nervous about starting the cancer treatment, but you have a very soothing voice. And I appreciate you just kind of creating this sort of global community where a lot of us are a little lost or have lost our sense of community. And I don't know if you realize how comforting it is. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I hope that your treatment goes well and that you get well soon. Did your attitude, what's it? Not attitude. Did your how you feel about germs change through the pandemic? I think it did for a lot of people. And this is maybe a good time to talk about this as far as like potlucks or bringing food from your house to a place where strangers are going to eat it. Do you guys have any hesitancies about eating casseroles from strangers' houses post-pandemic? I have a cat. And my cat gets on the counter. I'll just be honest with you. I try and keep it clean. I try and keep my kitchen clean. I have some disinfectant sprays I wipe down before I cook. But I have a cat. Cats get everywhere. That might gross you out. It probably should. Also, this is pre-pandemic, but I went to a dinner party and they had a couple young kids and they were still getting the food ready as we were walking into this dinner party. And these kids' hands were in everything. The mom was like preparing the food and putting it out on tables. And these two little kids, they were picking their noses and then like just plunging their hands into the potato chips and stuff. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't want to eat any of this food. Oh my God. It's got little kid hands in it. You know what I mean? So if you were to go to a potluck today, how would you feel? Let me know. I want to know, would you freely eat the food without a second thought? Or would you be like, are there cat paws in Kevin's casserole? And since we're talking about potlucks, this would be maybe a good moment to tell you about this. You know me. I'm constantly thinking in this day and age that we live in on how to connect people more authentically and how I can use my platform to connect with you more authentically. Because I think the scroll content creator thing is so unsatisfying, makes us lonely. You've already heard me say this. I want to live an analog life, which sounds weird coming from a content creator, I guess. I don't like referring to myself as a content creator. I'm a comedian on the internet, but I have a platform, I realize. Anyway, I'm thinking of opening a space in my neighborhood of Over the Rhine in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, I know most of you around the world don't live in my neighborhood, but here's how you're still going to benefit from it, I think. The first part of it is I just miss having my photo studio back in Nashville before I moved. Had a little studio. It was kind of my hiding place. I'd go and just sit if I wasn't working on something. It's my little office, my little creative office. I miss having that. I miss having my photo equipment set up in its own space. So I've been looking at storefronts in my neighborhood, and I found one. I found a couple that I think could work. But I've also just started turning my wheels of people tell me all the time they miss the community of church. Even if they don't miss the religious part, you show up every week and there's people you see, gets you out of the house. Maybe you make a connection, and you lose that after college. You just do. And people on the show have said before they have a hard time meeting people, making friends. Yeah, because we don't do community things anymore, and that's built into church. So the main space I'm thinking about getting is big enough to put some folding chairs out, and maybe we could have a Sunday thing. Not religious, just maybe like a community speaker, some kind of musical thing, and then we go to lunch or something. There's a park nearby. I live in a beautiful neighborhood. But I think I'm going to set it up where I can stream these Sunday gatherings so you can watch them anywhere in the world. And then I also think I might do some sort of live podcast event. I don't know. My wheels are turning. So even though it's a local community-based thing, I'm going to stream it. I'm going to stream stuff so you can see it elsewhere. And I think I'm going to call the place Shamala Hamala. I think I'm going to put that on the door. That's the sign, Shamala Hamala. We'll see. It's a work in progress. But anyway, maybe we'll have potlucks there where I'll bring my my cat casseroles.
Kevin.
Hi.
My name is Courtney.
Hello.
And we met at the Minnesota Fringe Festival, I think in like 2006 or
Yes,
7.
I remember you.
We were both out of towners and we were both performers. And I had no idea you were gay, and I had the biggest crush on you.
Oh, no.
Just telling you that, like, you're handsome and you know it.
Thank you. I'm very
And duh. So you of course have straight girl admirers.
Oh.
But aside from that, I just want to tell you, like, I'm really stoked for you and I'm really proud of you for how far that you've come and the content that you do and just like staying true to yourself. It's very inspiring. And also, like, I don't know, it just makes me feel really good to know that somebody, I feel like we have a lot of those people around us that were doing that stuff almost 20 years ago and making strides in so many ways. And you're one of them. And I'm just really, really stoked for you. I hope that you're having a great day today. And perhaps we will talk at some point in the future. Who knows? But at any rate, keep being awesome.
Oh, thanks, Courtney. Hope you're doing well. It's good to hear from you.
Hey, Kevin. My name's Andy, and I'm an artist. And I started a new series of paintings that are gayer than anything I've ever done. Or they feel really gay. Maybe they're not as gay as I think they are. But I think I'm encountering like some internalized homophobia. And like they're all fruit paintings, but fruit is like in art all the time. It's used as, symbolism for other things. And this is no different. And I didn't mean to do that, but it's just what's happened. It's come out of me now. And not only that, the first one I did is this like huge tangerine. It's like 3 feet by 4 feet. And it's all like peeled open and exposed. And like it looks like a booty hole to me. Like when I look at it, all I see is booty hole. But my friend bought it and she keeps asking me like, what is it about? What's the meaning behind it? And it's about being a bottom who's been ravaged over and over again.
Oh my God.
And feeling like you don't really have it anymore, but here's this tangerine. I don't know. I need to work on how I say this. Please help.
Did your friend buy the butthole painting not knowing that that's what you intended? A used butthole painting? Yeah, I think you need to work on your artist concept.
You know, here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Kevin.
I'm listening.
I'm not sure about the RFK situation, but could this be the way that we get Crystal Pepsi back? That's all. Yeah.
Crystal Pepsi, you want that back? I do not. I vaguely remember that. When I feel like that came out. That was like mid 80s, maybe. Also remember when Coke tried to put out new Coke. Why were we obsessed with doing away with old things and making everything new? We're not quite doing that anymore in the way we were back then. But with all of our downtowns, like we covered up beautiful architecture with ugly, modern looking things. Why were we doing that? Crystal Pepsi? Who wants that? I think this would be a good moment to do our community notes. Last week I did this as an experiment. I think it went well. I am shouting out your stuff. We don't have paid commercial advertising at this point. We might someday, but I thought I would open up this space to you. These are not products and services that I know anything about. These are listeners submitted. It's like a community bulletin board. So here we go again. Proceed at your own caution. These are not Kevin approved. I don't know them. Ever feel like your higher self is trying to tell you something, but all you get is vibes, static, or weird dreams you can't explain? Dana Smith is a trauma-aware, mind-body spirit facilitator, manual therapist, certified coach, clairvoyant, and artist. Yes, all of that. And no, she doesn't wear a crystal crown to work, usually. This summer, she's bridging all her worlds in one weirdly wonderful project, the Seer Series, a collection of clairvoyantly channeled energy portraits. She's looking for thoughtful, sensitive, creative humans who feel drawn to the unseen and are curious about what their spirit might want to reveal. Here's how it works. You apply. If selected, Dana tunes into your energy field clairvoyantly. She paints what your spirit shows her. Your portrait becomes part of the Seer Series intended to be exhibited publicly. And as a thank you, you'll receive a little gift in return. It's part art, part healing, part cosmic love note, and surprisingly grounding, even if you're a little spiritually skeptical. Dana's work is rooted in consent, sovereignty, and helping people reconnect with their own inner authority. No dogma, no hierarchy, no performance. Sound like you're kind of strange and sacred? Apply through her website. And this, I think, is danasmithwellness.com/creative. The way she wrote this, I'm not sure if this is a mistake. It says website.danasmithwellness.com/creative. So you might have to experiment if you want to find your way to this. Here we have a second one. This person says, I'd like to give a shout out to my young musician daughter if possible. Do you like finding new music and supporting emerging young artists? Then stream Edith Banks on Spotify or all good music streaming platforms. Edith has been writing her own music from the age of 13. Her songs are inspired by what she sees around her and the complexity of human relationships. If you like guitar pop, then do give her a listen by visiting edithbanks.com or her socials on Instagram, edith.b.music.0909. And here's the last one of our community notes this week. I would love a shout out for my project, Counter Story Media. My mission with this project is to audit the narrative, one story at a time. Certain societal narratives exist about LGBT people, about adoption, about military service, about being an immigrant, and rarely are these narratives based on truth. When people tell their real-life stories about being adopted, about fighting in a war, about being trans, we get a glimpse of humanity through another's eyes. Personal narratives touch hearts, change minds, and move social evolution forward. Beyond changing hearts and minds, these powerful stories can change legislation, law, and society itself. I am currently seeking story submissions that I may post or cross-post on Substack and potentially on my podcast, The Light at the Other Side, to help amplify these stories. The submission page is found at counterstorymedia.com/submit-your-story, or by direct message here on Substack at Counter Story Media. I look forward to honoring your life experiences by sharing your stories with the world. That's counterstorymedia.com. I think this is the perfect time for a dance break.
Dance break in your car, in your office, where you are. Dance break, move your booty, break it down like it's your duty. Dance break. Dance break.
A little bit, I felt like I was dancing. There's this meme that is, why am I talking about this? There's this meme, it's like an online class, and this woman is like, hi, I'm your interpretive dance teacher. It's like a dance class you'd pay for online. And then it immediately cuts to her just sort of doing this dance, which is fine or whatever. But it's like, why would you pay someone to dance like how I was just dancing? Anyway, let's see what else we got here. What's this? Oh.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, I got to speed through this because I think I'm hitting the limit. I had this thought recently as a straight white man in America that if my kids came to me and said they were gay, while I don't care at all and I have no issue with gay people and I love my children, honestly, the first reaction would be hesitance. I would want them to pause and really try to think it through. You know, I would hope it wasn't true. Just knee-jerk reaction. That's my first reaction. And as I dove deeper into the why of that, why would I feel that way immediately? It's really just because I don't want their lives to be harder. You know this. Their lives would be harder, and no parent wants that. It would be like my kid coming to me and saying, I'm going to join the army. I don't want you to get bullets shot at you, and I don't want you to be rejected by society or mistreated by people or oppressed. You know, so ultimately that was my gut reaction is I just don't want this to be harder for you. And I wish I could, what can I do to stop that? And, so that was my reaction. And it just occurred to me, I hope there's no other parents out there or kids coming out that are struggling with their parents' reactions. You know, they might be justified. They might be shitty parents who are being mean to their children, but I worry if, there was a kid coming out and their mom or dad wasn't reacting well to it. I would hate if it was just because they were worried for their safety or their durability in this hard life. And I just want to pass that insight along. And I might still be wrong about that, but at the end of the day, I think we can all agree we just want our kids to be safe, and this world doesn't allow that for little gay children. So anyway, is that a real thought? Am I speaking and making sense? All right, that's it, man. I don't know how long this can be. Hopefully I said all the things that were important.
I recently changed the recording time to 2.5 minutes. It used to be 5 minutes. So I thought maybe that would assist in tidying up some of the calls that go on. Okay. I mean, every scenario is different. Every person is different. Are some parents If some parents have a negative reaction, is it because they're just concerned about their child's safety? Sure, probably. Are also some parents just full of a lot of prejudice? Yes. I mean, there's a combination of things, of course. But the thing that you said was, your first instinct might be wanting it to not be true and asking yourself, what can you do to stop it? And the answer, you already know this, is nothing. And so then you have a choice to make of, are you going to make it harder? Are you at that point, what can you do? Nothing. So your next question is, are you now going to add to the hardship? And this is not the same thing. Race and sexuality are not the same thing, but we've all heard someone say, maybe not, this is not a thing too many people would say today, maybe, but back in the day, you might have someone say, boy, when interracial couples have kids, it's just hard on the kids. It's just really hard on the kids. And it's like, yeah, because of you. Why? Does it have to be hard on the kids? And that's not so much the case anymore. But do you remember when people would say that? So if your kid tells you a thing, your choice then is to accept or also make it harder. It's not a cut and dry thing. Everyone's different. Everyone's path is different. Was there more to that? Did I say what I wanted to say? If someone had a pill that I could swallow and it would turn me straight, I absolutely would not take that pill. I love who I am. I love my life. Even with all the bad stuff. Excuse me. Even with, you've heard me tell a lot of stories about the hardships of my youth and trying to find myself and be accepted. And I would not change a thing. Ish. Part of those experiences have made me who I am today, and I love myself. If I took a pill that made me straight, I'd be someone else entirely. And who wants that? Not I.
So whenever I was a kid, my parents divorced pretty early on. My dad was Southern Baptist, my mom was Pentecostal, and those ideologies really didn't mix. So one day I was at the Southern Baptist church, and the Sunday school teacher and her lesson that day was on lying and how terrible it was and how you'd go to hell if you lied and all that other stuff. And I just had a weird thought because I was the kid that was always asking all the existential questions in school, and the teachers hated to see me. And I said, what about during World War II when people were hiding Jewish people in the attic? Was it okay to lie then to save their lives? And she said, I don't know. Let me go get someone. And you know who they got? My own father. They pulled him out of his own Sunday school class to come in and tell me to calm the hell down.
You troublemaker. Asking the hard questions in Sunday school.
Hey, Kevin. I'm an actor and singer. And I'm 46. I'm queer as hell. Shocking. I know. You're dying. So I was wondering if you had any observations about how people are treated in the industry when it comes to being fat, honestly. I feel like we're in this weird swing back towards extreme thinness or focusing on being thin. Not healthy, but thin. And the fat positivity movement seems like it was a fad that is slowly trickling away, especially with the semaglutide thing, which I'm also diabetic and on one for health reasons, not pertaining like literally to weight loss. Anyway, I feel like I've been in this industry for quite a while, and I have literally lost roles to men who have been asked to put on weight to play what Hollywood's version of fat was. I was up for a very prominent role once in a very successful mid-2000s TV show as the boyfriend of one of the main characters, and they actually hired a guy, very talented guy, who they then had put on like 40 pounds to play the part. And I just feel like nothing has changed in all this time, and it's a real bummer. And I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on like what all of that is. Okay, bye.
I was a theater major in the 90s. Oh,
It was the 90s.
that was clunky. I was a theater major in the 90s, and that was an era of extreme thinness. Do you remember heroin chic as a look? Super unhealthy, just skinny with like smudged eyeliner. That was hot in the 90s. I was in theater school. And so there was, this idea of we were all going to graduate and then move to Los Angeles and become movie stars. So I had to lose weight. In college, I was 175 pounds. It's crazy that I thought I was fat when I was 175 pounds in the 90s. So I totally did the Atkins diet, lost some weight. I actually put on, some college weight, and then I did the Atkins diet, and I took off like the 10, 15 pounds that you gain in college. I definitely went through a period where I ate a slim fast. That was what it was. Today, I haven't weighed myself in a long time. I'm guessing I'm somewhere between 220 and 230 pounds. I'm a larger person than people realize. One thing people often say when they come to my shows is, "Wow, you are a lot taller than I thought you were." And I'm just I'm a thicker person than you probably are imagining. But I'm quite a bit heavier than I was when I was 25, of course. And my doctors told me to lose weight. I also would not be surprised if I end up on one of those drugs because of my last blood work, my A1C was a little high. So, I'm in my 50s, which also maybe adds to the fact that I personally don't want to lose weight. I mean, if I need to because of health reasons, I'll do what my doctor says. But I like the way I look. I actually feel like this body is more me. And when I look at pictures of myself when I was 25 and I look like a weird alien elf person. This is me. This is my body. I have an ass for the first time in my adult life, and I'd never had. I don't want to lose it. I'm afraid that if I have to go on the Ozempic or something, that I'll lose my ass. I can't speak about the actor-y stuff. That's not my world anymore. I wasn't quite aware. I knew that body positivity was a thing that has developed in the last few years, and I like that. Our attitudes about what is attractive we're totally influenced. It's not some sort of innate instinct about what you think is attractive. It is influenced. And I know that because you can look at different time periods and different cultures of what they thought beauty was, and it's wildly different. I actually today, I like some curves on men. I like some weight. I like a hairy chest with a stomach and an ass. Don't you? Who doesn't want that?
You are listening to the Call Kevin podcast.
Aloha, Kevin. Calling you from Hawaii. Just wanted to let you know that my girlfriend, who happens to be one of the most famous female Hawaiian vocalists of all time, get a lot of joy and happiness from your posts. So you got supporters around the world, and you got two solid ones here in Maui Nui, in the state of Hawaii. Aloha and hanaho.
Oh, thank you for telling me that.
Hey Kevin, really enjoying your podcast. Great stuff. One of the things, I know you talked about setting up a church and things like that. One of the things I miss as an ex-Catholic is confessions. And I was just thinking this morning about something that I did and it just made me laugh. So when I was about 3, we just moved up to this posh place, and we were one of the only Irish families on the road. So I went up to the other Irish family's house and I pooed on their doorstep. So I'm sure a therapist would have a great time with that. It's
what?
making me laugh. I was 3 though.
Oh.
Apparently, this woman forgave me. Cheers.
That whole story changed for me because I was imagining adult you. The note on this clip is Irish poo. Now that I know you were 3, it's a different story.
Hey, Kevin. My name is Mel. I just have a hopefully quick story about music in my fundamentalist Christian church growing up. The music that we had, I listened to rock music, even though I wasn't supposed to, and pop music, even though I wasn't supposed to. The music we had in church was always very just traditional. We had an organ and we had a piano and we had a choir, and that was about it. There weren't too many other instruments. Every once in a while, there may have been a violin or something. But I remember, I think it was late 80s, maybe around 88 or 89. We had a new family in church, and the father of that family, we found out, played the saxophone. And so during, it was an evening service because you couldn't do anything even remotely subversive in the morning service because that was sacred. But in the evening service, it was a little bit looser, if you could put it that way. Anyway, so in the evening service, we had a special music selection by the father of this new family, and he played the saxophone. And he did this hymn with the saxophone, and I think there might have been some piano accompaniment or whatever. And it was great. And I just remember it being like shocking to a lot of people because we didn't have horns ever or anything like that in music. And I just remember, okay, it was great. And the pastor at the time got up and said, "Isn't it great that somebody can take an instrument that's so sensual and turn it to God's glory?" And I just remember having one of those times where
Oh, got cut off. Ah, yes, the sensual saxophone, the subversive sensual sax. Well, he's not wrong though. It is a sensual sound, I think. Yeah, and it's in a way that maybe other instruments don't do that when you play them in a certain way. I think it'd be hard to make the flute sensual or the tuba. What would that sound like? But the sax is a sensual sound. We associate it with smoky night club. If you were to make the theme song for Cinemax After Dark, it would have a saxophone. He's not wrong. The thing that I think is funny, and I remember in that world, that there's anything wrong with that. For him to say that, to take something sensual and turn it into something for God's glory, as if sensuality can't be for God's glory. There's so much of this root of despising your own humanity. Isn't it amazing, all the different nuances of being a human, all the different things we feel? Sensuality is kind of a weird thing, isn't it? But we all know what it is. And isn't that amazing? Don't you feel so lucky that you get to experience that color, that vibe? Isn't that so cool? Who would think there's something wrong with that? But I guess obviously I know a lot of people do. I don't. Give me a saxophone.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? I love your videos. They're super hilarious. So one of my best friends is gay, and me and my girlfriend hang out with him and his boyfriend all the time, right? But we have such a good time. We're kind of wondering, how would we go out and meet some other gay people that we enjoy time with? How would a hetero person go meet some gays? I don't know. Could you answer that? By the way, I love your videos.
Well, if you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, you can come to Shamala Hamala when it's open and meet some gays. I guess this is that question again. How do you meet people? I think with the gays, it's not hard to find us. I think you have two options. You can go with your gay friends to a gay bar, and you know, it would be pretty easy to meet some gays at a gay bar. Now you're going to meet, in that scenario, you're meeting more like fun friends. You're going to see them again also at a gay bar or something. If you don't want to do that too often, I think you could also find some sort of, here we are again, community event. There's a lot, most towns have some sort of LGBT community center, and those centers often have events that are open to the public that are not, you know, based around a nightclub. So you're going to meet a different kind of dynamic. It's the same answer again, isn't it? We've got to get out into our communities and do something. Let's see, what do we have left here?
Hi, Kevin. I'm Elle, and I've been an American expat living in the UK for more than 20 years. I am so frightened about the way that we're perceived in the world. And don't get me wrong, it's been this way the entire time that I've lived abroad. And being in my mid to late 40s now, it's nothing new, and I've developed quite a thick skin. And I'm just wondering if you think that there is any possible chance or risk that Americans might overstay their welcome abroad. Whatever happened with you moving to the UK, by the way? I'm really curious about that. But I am wondering if you've thought, as a person who would be new to being an expat, what that experience would be like actually living and working abroad at a time when it seems that at least a majority of Americans thought that this approach, an ideological change in approach, was possibly a good thing.
I have talked a couple times before. Yeah, some of you know that I was in the process of trying to get a visa for the UK, and it didn't work. Basically, this short story is they denied my visa, and I considered appealing it or coming under a different kind of like visitor's visa or something. And then I just changed my plans. But I worked very, very hard on getting that visa. It was a lot of work, and it was a frustrating experience. And they said no. So I ended up changing my plans. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's like the nutshell story. The thing you said at the end that like the majority of Americans, and this is, you know, this is not a show that I ever really veer too hard into anything political, but I will say I don't think a majority of Americans really understood what they were voting for. I don't think that Americans operate like that, which sort of plays into the overall question of why do people not like us abroad? And it's because of that. We don't know anything. And even in a different era before this one, you know, I remember in college, exchange students coming and saying, this complicated relationship that they had with Americans, because, and this is, you know, I don't think they'd say quite this today, but back in the 90s they would, that we were like the cool kids, but we're super annoying because we're arrogant and we're not super informed, but we make all the cool things back in the day, from Levi's to cool movies. You know, the world has changed, but back then I think it would be something like that. We've gotten worse. We're just a really not very well-informed country for a million reasons that I can't go into in the last few minutes of this show, you know, but my education, I went to school, my elementary school years were the 80s, and then my high school years were 1988 to 1992. And I often think about how much I did not learn in school. I didn't really learn anything until the internet happened, and I started to learn things on my own. But one kind of horrific one, and I think we're seeing this play out today in America. My memory of what I was taught about slavery in school was that it happened, but we didn't ever talk about too much about like what it was, or put it in the connection was never made when I was 12 in school or whatever, of what that was and what it did to humans. process never happened. So it's a thing that happened in America. And then Lincoln freed the slaves. That's wonderful, isn't it? And then Martin Luther King came along and he had a dream. And now here we are today and everyone is equal. That's pretty much the story I was taught. And that is not the story. And now, and the world is changing very fast. And I think a lot of people in America are having a little meltdown that when someone tries to teach the actual truth, we have all these things that we have not dealt with. America's a complicated place and we're in a complicated time. So the rest of the world, those of you who are listening from other countries, I know we're super irritating. A lot of us. But most people didn't understand what they were asking for, I think. I might be wrong. Let's see. What have we have time for one more. Here we go.
My name's Camille, and today my papa had a heart biopsy, and he found out his heart is in a constant state of flutter. But I already knew that. He is gruff and grumpy. The passerby might think him dispassionate or unkind. He wouldn't want you to know it. How his calloused hands built countless fires in a sunroom for my grandma, the flame of his life. How long he spends picking out that perfect gift for you, just to shrug his shoulders when you thank him. His humble, blushing spirit constantly betrays that Eeyore act. He's got these doe eyes that just defy his frowns, and if you look closely enough, my papa's heart is in a constant state of flutter. But if you're lucky enough to be loved by him, you already knew that. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for sharing that. Lovely little tribute to your dad. You might not know. Well, why would you? Because I've never told you. Mine is as well. I first felt it in college. It scared the hell out of me. My heart would just start sometimes feeling it was going to leap out of my chest. And I went to the college doctor. And at the time, I was smoking cigarettes like crazy and drinking Diet Mountain Dew. And he's like, well, cut that stuff out. And I did eventually, and that helped somewhat. But the little flutter in my chest never quite went away. And I've gone to the doctor a whole bunch over it and had EKGs. And I've learned that the electricity in my heart just makes my heart beat a little weird sometimes. Sometimes it's worse than others. I don't feel it most of the time. But yeah, mine does too. I noticed at one point, this is just an aside, but if I ever drank a Diet Coke, the heart flutter would get way worse. So I don't touch that stuff. And I have the electricity in my heart makes it flutter. Thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. I'm so glad that you spend some time with me each week listening, leaving me messages, and I hope to continue. I hope that's a satisfying listen for you at the beginning of your week. As always, my website, kevinjamesthornton.com, is where you go to leave a message and check out what I've got going on. Stay tuned for Shamala Hamala, the destination in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I hope you have a really fantastic week. And come see one of my shows if I'm coming to your city.
It was the 90s. It was the 90s. It was the 90s.